So we talked about. Hey, welcome to the August. Where's someone over? August board meeting. Before we rise and before the invitation, pledge allegiance, I'd just like to read something on behalf of something happened in our community. So let me just give you a grace here. Not typical way we start, but I think this might be you might understand. What I've learned over the past 8 years while serving as a trustee and now supervisor is that in the governmental sector, there's a beautiful community of officials, all elected and also staff. A community that cooperates, encourages, celebrates, and warms. Since our July meeting, the leader in our region has passed away. Tim Clunder, City of Zeeland City Manager, died July 27th. Tim served Zeeland for 24 years. He was respected not only by the Zeeland community, but by the entire region. The city released these highlights of his tenure. Tim led initiatives to strengthen neighborhoods, enhancing parks and public spaces, revitalizing downtown, expanding public safety services, investing in infrastructure, and providing a high level of service for residents. Zeeland Mayor Richard Van Orden wrote, Tim led with humility, treated everyone with dignity, and cared deeply about the city and the people. We celebrate Tim's example, and we carry on his legacy within our walls and across our community. As a board, we grieve our neighbor's loss. As a small expression of our condolences, I've got a sympathy card I'll pass along for our team to sign. We'll get it to our colleagues. Gracious God, we have a community near us that is mourning the loss of our friend and leader, and we grieve with them. We thank you for the life and legacy of Tim Clunder, and we grieve with his wife, Kim, and we just, and family, on the loss of this man way too early in life. We thank you for what he offered up for many years in the Zeeland community, and we lean on his and stand on his shoulders as an example of how to be well. And as we go into our meeting this evening, we just look at how to do with dignity and those are thankful that we met him and interacted with him, and maybe we'll get ready for those who give you praise and thanksgiving. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. There is an addition to the agenda that our manager would like to make, but other, edits or revisions to the agenda.
But yes, I would like to ask that we have a closed session that is really discuss legal strategy relative to our ongoing lawsuit or Gen 122 preference.
Any other edits or additions to the agenda?
The new agenda would be the agenda.
Hearing no other additions, approve the amended agenda. Thank you.
Support.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Approval of the consent agenda. Minutes, payment of bills, truth and taxation, village rates and public hearing date. Looking to approve the consent agenda. Thank you. Report. Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. All right, this is our time for public hearing. This is the opportunity for citizens to, share their concerns or celebration, with the board. So, please come to the podium and, like, identify yourself, where you live, and couple minutes, would be great. Yeah. Thank you. We're, good.
You need to sign in here as well. Good evening, my name is Hannah White. I was here earlier this year introducing myself. I was telling you that I'm running for district court judge and I'll be on the ballot in November. Recognize all of you except for me, Matthew, you're new since I was here. So welcome to the board. Welcome. I got the newsletter, so I'm a Park Township resident as well. I live just down Perry Street here. And so I was excited to come early this year to announce that, but in that time, I'm still on the ballot for November for the term in January, but the judge who was in the seat retired early. So I was appointed in June for that seat. So I've been on the bench for a little over a month and have been able to be in that role already. I wanted to come and update. I know a lot of people have been confused because they said, well, you're done. You're on the bench now. And I said, no, I actually have an election until November. But it has been wonderful to get to see. I think when I was here last time, I probably talked about what I was looking forward to in terms of using the experience I have as a social worker, doing a lot of mediation as well in private practice and then practicing as a defense attorney. And already on the bench, I'm able to use all those skills. One of my favorite things, I want to take a lot of your time, but one of the things that I was most excited about, you have been wonderful as I oversee the treatment court funding. We have one treatment court for mental health issues, and so that's in the courtroom. And so I've been able to have several sessions already with that group and incredibly fulfilling. Be able to step into that group and say, how can we support you? How can we be helpful to accountable for what happened? Usually these are people keeping in the criminal justice system because of diagnosis and some issues going on for them. And it's been really wonderful to get to practice that family, that over to what's best for this individual and what's best for them. So I'm really enjoying it so far. It's been wonderful, but I am still on the ballot for November, so I just wanted to come and reintroduce myself that way. So thank you so much. I have some notes as well, but I think I passed these out last time I was here. So wonderful. Thanks for having me again. Thanks.
Please. Thank you.
We're wrong. They're pretty bad. I live at 15961 Riley. My name is Lindsay. There is a deer herd in my backwoods that are about 15 to 20. They are so tame that you can, the other night I wanted to drive out of my driveway and they wouldn't even move. Yeah, well, you laugh about it. No, no, I understand it. That's what I tell people. That if you laugh about it. But they will come in and eat anything. And they're so tame that they don't run across the road, they walk across. And I'm single, so I watch them almost every night out of the week, unless the kids come over. And when I come back, on Ryder Street and 100, I go down this road where it's at. On Ryder Street and 168, you don't do the speed limit because you don't know if they're going to jump out in front of you or they're not. When in 2004, Windmill Island had a problem with it here. And they had a deer removal program and it was done by the local police department. I would like to see that done here. You can't do it now, but in the fall, when the schools are open, do it in our parks. We own a lot of parks. We have a lot of parks. Close the parks down, have the police come in and shoot anything. shoot the does, shoot the fawns, because the fawns grow up. And shoot the bucks, and then give the meat to the board. And yeah, that's what I would like to see done. And I know that if you did that, that there were a lot of people would say, oh no, you can't kill these animals. Well, wait till you get one. I lived where I lived for quite a while. I hit 5 years ago. So, wow, thank you very much.
Ready or later? Okay. On the right side. Thank you. Appreciate this issue. Thank you for coming back. The Rhode mission, vision, and values. Our township is a family-friendly, connected community that values our natural features, agricultural character, and recreational activities. Our mission, we proactively listen and lead, providing exceptional services and amenities while carefully stewarding resources. Values of integrity, respect, and being. With that in mind, down to Libby. So the department reports was a little lighter this one, but any questions on what we can see? Rain, highly that you would like to make that in the department or? Sure. Yeah. We did have some major thing last week, didn't we, John?
We did have some major plan. Yeah, so I have good results here. We had 16,617 registered voters.
Yeah.
We sent out 5484 absentee ballots, and we got 81% of those returned. We had 303 early voters over 90 days. Commented that's not a lot of voters for 9 days, so that's another issue. Had a total of 44 absentee ballots returned. And then on the day of voting, 2976. So a total of 7,723 voters, 46.5%. So I think it's a very good turnout. And higher than. We'd like to read a note that was passed on by our county, the collection supervisor there that said, we passed on some notes from the canvassers about the early voting poll books, and they said they were perfect. This is the first time that we have done early voting for our township. Last time it was done by the county, and this is the first time we've partnered with College Charter Township and conducted early voting with us. So we had to set up all of the processes, all of the steps, all of it was written. And to have the canvassers say that that's what perfect. It's just a big credit to them. They all get a large portion of that. Justin also said he will be against. That was a really, and then I'd also like to commend Krista here for is that the first or the second time that you did all of the elections? It's the second time, but this is a much bigger election. So the process was much. She did a beautiful job too. I don't think we had any issues with the county, or very minor issues county election. So just thank you to Danielle and Krista. I still say we got some of the rest. Do nothing, and deputy and election coordinators.
The one issue that we had in the ballot.
Oh, the proposal.
Proposal?
How do you think about that?
I'm sure that the chief would probably stand up and shout that.
Yeah, the parks proposal, we had,
Not parks, this is the fire.
I'm sorry, the public safety. We had 70.5% voted yes for the proposal. That's really, and then just another note, Henry Parks proposal at 67%. All of the proposals have been voted on very heavily.
Safety. 70%, is it demonstrates. There you go. With that, we'll close out the part reports. Unless Matt, you have anything else, or?
I have a number of department updates, but I'll include them in there.
Okay, sure, that's okay, that would do, that's fine. Great. So, I know we've all been waiting with the first presentation. I mean, it's it's arguably the highlight of our summer. I mean, I might go on vacation, but I always come back to the office.
You said it was bated breath, and I was like. Well, thank you. I appreciate coming again and reporting the results of the audit for your fiscal year ends March 31. The audit went very well. It got it done right at the end of July and issued the report. Connie, as always, had everything in perfect shape for us. We didn't have any journal entries from what you previously seen in the monthly report, so nothing to report there. But if you go to page 1 of your book, that's where we have our opinion on the financial statements. After we come and do an audit, we study the internal controls, and we also look at the numbers and audit. They report an opinion on the financial statements, and that opinion is in the second paragraph on page 1. As in our opinion, this financial statements present fairly in all material respects of financial position of the township. So that's a good clean opinion, certainly what we want to have. Then the next major section of the report, as you page through, it starts on page 3, and that's management discussion and analysis. This is put together by township management. And if you read nothing else in the report, read the financial highlights on page 3. Kind of tells some of the big things that were going on, big activities. Taxable value being up 6.5%. Purchase of the Coast Guard station and a related $600,000 grant to help pay for that. The total additions to capital assets were $3.4 million, and I'll show you the effects of some of that. We get into a couple of the numbers here. I won't make you go through all of them. Then on page 8 of the management discussion and analysis. This is an economic factor to make through audit. So this gives you, if you read through that, talks about the 27 fiscal year budget. Well, considered in that, so that's all up right here in this audit report. And we'll look at a few of the numbers. I won't go into too much detail here, but I'm page 9 through 11. This is called your government-wide financial statement. So it has all the activity of the township boiled down into one single financial statement. And it includes all of the capital asset, any outstanding debt, compensated absences, that kind of thing. One thing I just wanted to point out is here at the bottom of the page, on page 9, you'll see a number of $21,189,000. It's about 10 lines up. It's your net investment in capital assets. So as you purchase new capital assets, that number continues to go up. And that's what you've been doing. It goes down as the assets depreciate. It goes up as you purchase new capital. Last year's number there was 19 million, so it's gone up with a net increase of about 3. So that's good to see. It's good to see that investment in capital continue to increase year after year. So that's a good trend that you want to see. Then the unrestricted net position, the second line up from the bottom, 14,308,000. Last year that was 14,342,000. So a lot of the activity was in capital. You kind of see that. Another thing I'm going to point out on this financial statement, just because it's a little bit easier to see it on page 11. So this is your property taxes. Again, are about 10 lines up under general revenue. 5,972,000. And that was last year, that's 5.4 million. The taxable value might cost, so that's drove that increase there. That's up almost 500,000 from the previous year. Another line item I'm going to point out was investment income, your interest, earned interest this year. Really good. Back a little bit. And the next set of financial statements starts on page 9, or I'm sorry, page 12 through 18. And this is the fund financial statements. This is basically all the funds of township broken down individually. You can see the bottom line there, the second line under the line, fund balance. That's basically what you have available to spend in each of the funds. I'll concentrate this on the general fund. And one thing I wanted to mention, last year there was pandemic related funds which assigned their $900, down to $51,000. That money was used for the purchase of the Township station this past year. And then the unassigned fund balance, the third line up from the bottom, left-hand column, is 3.2 million, which is about 100% of your annual expenditure. And that's a good number to have for the township because you have to basically fund all of your expenditures until almost the end of your next fiscal year when your tax starts coming in again. It's good to have it at around 100% of your fund balance. That's what you hope to see every year with that. Just because of the timing of the tax collection process. Now, page 16. Only thing I want to point out here, there was some pretty significant transfers out of the general fund this year. Again, I'm looking at just the left-hand column on page 16. That's your general fund. And you can see fifth line out, there's transfers out of 1.3 million of the general fund. And that was the transfer of the money for the Coast Guard station. And there was also money transferred to the improvement fund for rails. Next more. The sixth line on $82,000, that's the transfer coming from the general fund. They'll fund it, and the Coast Guard station would move along 1.4 million. I didn't point that out. One of the bigger unusual things for the township this past year. And then if you flip forward to page 33, that's where we see the budget for the general fund. We have to compare the budget and the actual numbers here and report any overages to the state. I mean, you turn all the way there just to point out that there were no overages. You're not reporting them to the state, which means you operated within your budget. Very agency. So, all places go for that. You're down. You're going to be in and watching this. So that can go. You find that last time you had issues. You typically do. Okay. We are long time. Here is a good thing. Yes, if there were any overages, those would be reported in footnote number 2 for the financial statements. There's footnotes that clearly describe some of the holdings over here, but statutory compliance on page 26, and that's where we have no issue to report. If you get a chance to page through it, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'll let it go there.
Any questions from the comments?
That's it.
Yeah, good job, Connie.
Anything?
And team.
Connie, and then the work that Connie puts into both their budget and this audit. We don't have a great debt advantage. And now Sarah gonna be her deputy, and they're just gonna make the comments. Or great spot. Thank you for your request.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Well, good news. Great. Out of county, moving on to the next one. I just saw Kirk come in. Kirk, please, how do I work with strategic plan?
Keep making you start at 7.
You made it just in time.
I've had double headers Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So this night I get off with just one meeting. So it's kind of a relief. Kurt Guri with the Ottawa County Road Commission. We're wrapping up a bunch of projects. Roundabout 120 Fort Sheldon. Supposed to be open tomorrow. No, that's what the contractor told us. We'll wait and see. 2 weeks from now, we'll go on 104 in London. This is scheduled to be completed. We just started the one at Fort Lee and the whole one. The lady with her first down water. Project that you're interested in, so rain culvert that's going to be replaced, it's right there by Aldean's. After 2 years, we finally got Corps of Engineers to approve our permit. Like we will be doing that next spring. We're still working with Aldean's and see what is the most appropriate time to do the project. Also here to share our strategic report. Normally 120 pages long with my diagrams. I'm going to watch a reader's digest in 1 page. You don't have to sit and read all night. Actually, digest them to be done in the bathroom. These are the proposed road improvements for 27 through 2032. These are what is proposed in Park Township. These are mainly the primary roads. The report is you got a road name 144. Lemon is from Douglas to Quincy. AET is the average daily travel, which is 5,364 vehicles a day. That was 3 miles long. It was last improved in 2019 and was resurfaced. Has a PACER rating of 6. New roads where I have a PACER rating of 10. They drop down to about 4 or 3 is when we repave. So that one does not have a year for being resurfaced, but we could resurface that. Drop down Butternut Drive from 144th to Holland. That has 5,646 vehicles. That was last year's surface in 2010. We're planning to resurface that next year. Butternut. Yeah, and 144th intersection. There's interviews traffic 14,100 vehicles a day. 2030, we're looking at building a roundabout. Roundabouts cost about 2.1 million. By the time we get partial funding through the Metropolitan Coordinating Council sort of the max. So that's what determines how and when we get good. As you look in the future at around about 152nd Quincy, Butternut 152nd Quincy and Butternut. Ottawa Beach 160th, Quincy 144, Riley 144, and Riley 152nd. Long-term goals, we have looking at doing about 3 or 4 roundabouts a year. Next year we'll be doing 48 in Byron Road, there's that shy between Jamestown and Virginia Township. Now we're doing 68 in Fillmore. We'll create south out of Allendale, and we'll be reconfiguring the roundabout at Coopersville. For next year. You're going to roundabouts because it forces people to slow down. Yeah, you're right. If you do have a collision, it's not a T-bone, it's more of a side collision than it was personal injuries. We're finding out a lot of people are slowing down and we don't have accidents. That's kind of where we're at. Questions?
How do you determine the roundabout and stop?
Because people will run stoplights Watch people that turns red and they're gonna keep doing their turn or go through because they think it's long enough and they're going to enter that intersection and become less efficient. Roundabout will find to be more efficient. Plus, you have the maintenance for the traffic light, you know, the power to operate it.
I see roundabout in our particular township, there's a number of roundabouts. Is there a way that we can influence the schedule of which ones like?
Or there's some line here.
Okay. So what's the process for us to?
I would just simply say, write a letter to the road commission saying which ones they want to have prioritized and schedule one accordingly. Ammerville also has like, Fillmore has one almost every half mile. What we're looking at, because you've got 48, you've got 60, 52nd is another one. And even 96 Fillmore we're looking at.
We're going into a strategic plan, and it's supposed to be an exception on our strategic plan this fall.
Well, that's why this kind of works nicely. It gives you one page synopsis of everything we're doing.
Yeah.
And if you'd like some of the surrounding townships or anything, we have those.
You choose lights and roundabouts, is that a thing for you as well? I'm just curious, although it's not, if we share the border of one, like the hardware store down the way.
That would be less likely to go to a roundabout because it's got 4 lanes of traffic.
Gotcha.
In this, we find out roundabouts will work great on a single lane. But people do not understand how to use a 2-lane roundabout.
I traveled in Europe a number of years ago, and they do have 4-lane or 2-lane.
Oh, yes.
They understand.
They're a mess up there. We have a lot of people that are scared to use them. Once they finally them, they love them. And the biggest concerns we get raised at our public hearings are from farmers wondering how they're gonna get their combines. Roundabout. And it's like, one time a year versus every daily traffic is, it's a tough argument.
How does the Otto County Road Commission feel about pedestrian crossing? Like lighted or just more noted? And the only reason I bring that up, we have a lot of traffic obviously going to the state park. And then there's need for pedestrians to be able to cross. So what's the general consensus if you go around lighted or some kind of pedestrian crossing?
What we do is the township pays for, the township requests it, and we do it.
Okay.
Personally, but I have found out, make crossing safe, you have to somehow make it appear the road narrows. For people. Just simply have a button, people are going to 45 and expect them to slow down or stop when you hit that button. It's very difficult. But if you can narrow the road somehow, make it appear that people have to slow down, then they're even more effective.
Almost like what they did in downtown Holland, where you just got behind. You have a rough, very ballpark number of what something like that costs. Okay.
I mean, most of the time, I'm going to miles road.
Yeah, I mean, it's being fair, it's very, it's what it costs.
Is there examples of temporary road speed bumps that are used in high traffic areas? Like we look at the 168th, yeah, 168th, and the speed is 30 miles per hour. Have you seen examples of temporary speed bumps installations that literally slow some of these motorcycles. Feeding heaters, you know, electrical. And see, either that, I don't know. And it's not, I know you don't like it for winter, but I'm just wondering if for summer.
I think most of the power in that area is when it's.
Yeah.
That's when they speed is
Right.
coming east. It seems to be going okay going west, but the ones coming out from the beach.
I think there's, if you put a temporary speed on there, knock a little sense into them. Maybe it's sort of, I don't know. I just know I travel in South America and I go to sleep basically. Out through the neighborhoods, they have these massive speed bumps that if you just slow down, you I don't know. In every neighborhood now, no. But it was very effective at slowing down all traffic. All
We put it off in the question like for that road construction, putting in temporary stop signs. That we trying to do it because it's so easy to train people about the reconfiguration of that. It's on the same type of problem. With, you know, having temporary.
What about some of the flat speed bumps? I know that those are worth the Grand Haven Channel. On the road out by the beach, they have quite a few of the flat ones. And then I've also traveled out. In some of the cities that are more pedestrian tricycle friendly, they have one of those flat bumps across every crosswalk. That's here in the United States, and they have lots of snow and boulder. So, especially in our areas that are very high traffic, out to the state park between 160 and anything we can do there. But a speed bump at every crosswalk, then that helps our pedestrian as well.
168.
What did you do in our long time?
We're looking at.
Ideally, like one.
Yeah, I think we need to look at
Super long.
that whole area down there, but
And
yeah.
the whole area has to be fixed.
In Chippewa, especially because we have so many walkers that will come across our beach road into our neighborhood, walk through our neighborhood until they get to the end. And then go across our beach road. And then there the Lake Street and our beach road, our neighborhood, it's, that was probably one of the most gorgeous.
I have a couple questions. Do you ever, when you look at your schedule for road projects, and I know a lot of this doesn't have to do with the road. But when the two main roads, one is closed, the other one's having construction down to one lane. To get anywhere, do you ever look at each other's schedules, or do they need permission? You know, I probably like River James. They what?
James, both are all common. All water.
We have no control over that. There needs to be some logic behind when they do projects. You know, it's getting pretty dangerous. And also another concern of mine for years, it has been, when you have a turn lane, why can't you put a turn lane in?
Goes by the bottom.
I would be right here at the corner. It's like in the summer, you can't turn coming east. The traffic is so much because it's all down to one lane now. And to try to turn at this corner, sometimes, most of the time, it's not possible. To get through that lane.
You're looking at 152nd here, every 1 foot.
And I will be,
Our beach.
It all comes down to mornings were fine.
How do you do
Some
it?
times of the day, I mean, just, see, I left the, there. Yeah, but had trouble turning. I think it's down to times of the day, and I don't see time in here. How much? Very small window.
Basically, what we started with was practice. I mean, look at what that intersection modification had to be done. I looked at what was on. Turn lanes.
Another one that's always busy is Beeline and James. They try to turn north on Beeline. I just voiced my opinion because we have no.
Firework here.
Yeah.
Stop lights.
What?
You use stop lights. Like time them.
That farm,
This has been very helpful. Yeah. Probably, keep on going closer than that hour. I mean, you thought you had 2 meetings, not only 1 meeting tonight, we don't want to turn it into 2 meetings.
Well, that's all right.
So.
just keep going, that's why I'm here. If you got more things you wanna.
No, thanks. Really helpful tonight. Thank you.
I'll look forward to having more conversation.
Okay.
At the road commission, especially about Auto Beach. How do we address some of these things?
I like to see that there's roundabouts on the schedule.
I'm excited, you want to see. I don't no. I'll go with which one to put first.
Just don't do it in the summer when the beach traffic.
Oh, fine. Yeah, right. You're right. You can't put it in during the winter.
Not all go like I always do.
Good. Moving on. We're gonna have a public hearing and Resort Service District and parking ordinance. Thank the planning commission and leadership for bringing it to our attention. And so we all got our document and we're gonna have a public hearing and we have a couple documents that are diets. And since we're prior to this meeting, there are some opinions already on this. So other properties, no decision to be made. We can possibly come back. Just to turn it down, but I would just say, hey, we're in a process. You know, I think we're continuous improvement. I think we're realistic. So I don't want to open up a public hearing for this first change. You can refer to the parking orders by getting to 3:30. And I see maybe coming to the board.
Yes. Actually, I'm here on behalf of Jeremy and Rachel Allen. On the property at 1504 South Shore Drive. It's obviously zoned C2. Drainage renovate existing structure, which was a residence with retail. To short-term rental. They applied for a building permit December. 2 weeks later, we got a letter stating the intent to amend this portion of the zoning ordinance. Applies to the C2. Well, there are 2 of them, dozens of small parcels with single-family residents, zone C2. This process so far has taken 8 months to get to this point, which in my experience is an exceptionally long period for a relatively minor amendment. And unfortunately, the proposed amendments don't do a terribly good job of distinguishing between small C2 parcels that have single family residences already on them. And large C2 parcels that have marinas, campgrounds, those sort of things. Wildly different types of properties in the C2 zoning district. And many of the smaller ones were recently added. Concern is with the dimensional requirements of the proposed ordinance. The ordinance requires short-term rentals to meet the minimum front setback of 75 feet, side setbacks of 25 feet combined, minimum width of 125 feet, minimum lot size of 1/2 acre. Applies all C2 parcels in the township already. This parcel doesn't meet any of those. I doubt any residential structure in the C2 zoning district meets them. Particularly those recently added. Condos in Manitowoc Park that probably don't have a southern half. So, almost 75 feet. Some homes on Hot Beach Road, the lots behind 75 feet deep, which was at the 75 foot front yard setback. We're told that the dimensional requirements of R4 would apply, except that the minimum lot size for two-family dwelling with public water and sewer would be 12,500 square feet. The amendment does say that for single-family and two-family dwellings, does not carry forward for short-term rentals. Maybe that was the intent, it doesn't say that. Short-term rentals, would still have to meet those dimensional requirements I mentioned before. Frankly, it can be changed, or it can be changed, what the township could recognize by apply was that existing lots and structures zone C2 are grandfathered. They don't need to meet those dimensional requirements, they don't need to get variances for that, even if converted to short-term residential, since those dimensions apply to all uses in C2 zone. Another concern is parking requirements that apply to this parcel. The amendment allows 6 occupants in a 2-bedroom short-term rental, 8 occupants in a 3-bedroom. So we have to have 2 parking spaces for one unit, 3 for the other. That's not a problem. Building is 38 feet from the road, 10 feet, the parking has to be 10 feet off the road right away, it has to be 20 feet deep. So we have to have 5 parking spaces side by side. Get room for that. But the zoning administrator is suggesting that we need to reduce the width of the driveway with the change of use. Short-term rental. It's not correct. State law governs this. State law, driveway banners and grades there. Says that driveways that predate August 6, 1969 are grandfathered and don't need to be changed with change in use, unless the change in use creates a safety hazard. We don't think changing from residential retail to short-term rental creates a safety hazard. What the township acknowledges that state law controls that the driveway is what it is. We don't have to change that. Now, that's not particular in this ordinance. It's something that we need to take up with the zoning administrator. Just want to make sure we're following that state statute. Those are the comments we have on this amendment. I know it's short-term rentals are a difficult topic, and I know you had a lot of work on it, so I appreciate that for our thoughts on this. Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Brian Violet. I live in 1492 Southgate Drive. That rental this gentleman was talking about is in my front house. I want to know how come that property, I understand how it's always been, but their parking lot is also part of the bike path. And then you got the house, bike path, you got the house, you got all the parking, and you got this very small bike path, and then you got the entrance. Well, I know how people park. So when other people come to work on that level, they park on the bike path. So you're gonna have to do something about no parking on the bike. Period. But there's a lot of people that park on the bike. Just consider it part of their driveway. Because your bike path, I go every 2 years when they redo my driveway. But I have not seen you go that bike path in the 35 years I've lived there. So, I have to do something on the bike path. Because, you know, it is what it is.
Close to public hearing on ordinance. Like, and I don't get the gun off. Here.
So this project originally started towards the end of last year. Started looking at just internally some of the issues with the C2 and the C1 district, both of those two. Neither of them have been updated for a long time. We have a lot of existing nonconformity in each of those districts. And of course, we added a short-term rental use to it as well. And so as we went through those, we saw we got a few issues. One of them, I thought was a little bit funny. We have tried 20 restaurants through restaurants. So that was one of the smaller ones that we thought we would make some changes, make some amendments to. The intent of this originally, remembering that we were in a very different place a year ago, was that these were going to be some patches for the time being, and that kind of remains the case. At the time when we were looking at updating these two, we weren't planning to do a full rewrite of the zoning ordinance. We're hoping to just be able to take a couple months and tighten some things up. The scope of this, correct, as it sometimes does, as it was in the planning commission, and it just got a little bigger. But there are a number of things that are still in the ordinance that need some updates, that have been updated. What it attempts to do is to make a handful of items, adjustments in here to fill some gaps, to make approvals more efficient, and to make ordinance requirements easier to understand for the average reader. So those are some of the things we're talking about. A couple of the other items, it changes the dwellings within the zoning district. So, previously, it didn't allow, for example, just a single family home within the zoning district. There are plenty in both the C1 and the C2. And we were getting some calls at the end of last year. I think there were just a couple of houses that happened to be on the market. People were saying, I'm having trouble getting a mortgage, or I'm having trouble insuring this because the house maybe could be rebuilt if it was destroyed by an act of God. But if you just wanted to take it down and rebuild it, then you can remove that existing conformity. It's a little bit more problematic. And so you were running into difficulties with underwriters. My understanding is that they were. So that was some of the background for where that came from. And then in addition, some of you might remember when the Iowa Beach General Store was being rebuilt. And it went through the planning commission. It was a very that something that non-conforming parcel to fit on that parcel. And so some of the things that this does is also to give the planning commission the ability to make some adjustments, because we do know that there is a lot of non-conformity within the zoning district. That's one of those things that as we approach this zoning ordinance rewrite, we would intend to take that as a more holistic global look at the zoning ordinance. So that's some of the intent behind it. The ordinance addresses a couple of those uses. There's the residential uses as well. Standards for administrative. Look at areas that align with other residential districts, and then adjust some numbering as well. So that's the general thought. There's been a lot of comments on this, including some that I got from Joan earlier. I wasn't able to work my way through all of those. I found that there was one typo that was identified, and there was also one that was apparently introduced to the ordinance in 2020. That was found. That was not something we've reviewed. So there were some things in there. Most of the things I found country checks, not an issue, but I haven't made it all the way through. I know that Mr. Alvin has sent in some comments as well. questions about utilities. So I went through the district, looked at all of the parcels, looked at utility alignment. As far as I can tell, this was a manual review, so it's possible that I missed one or two, but as far as I can tell, every person in this district does already have music. So I don't think that that's an issue. Those are my only questions. I think I'll leave it there and answer the questions we have.
Mr. Aldine did share some concerns.
Yeah, there are, I'm trying to find the spot, I think I'm trying to find the spot where you mentioned parking. Most of that is more rearranged. There are two things that kind of happened with parking. One is that it's rearranged, like there was one section in there, where it said that, the top heading was, all parking lots with 10 cars or above, and then something beneath it said something for any size regardless. It just didn't make sense for that heading. So some of that stuff I think was just rearranged. And then it just offers additional flexibility. Or at least that was the intent. So it allows the planning commission to say, you know, this, so some of these setbacks, you tend to be in space from the street. If you think about the itty bitty, for example, which is C1, not C2, but if you think about the itty bitty, that's already there, that's already existing. You've got parking directly up to the road. It allows, if that were something that would come before the planning commission, for them to say, okay, you've got an existing facility here, and we have a non-conforming parcel. Is that something that we can, depart from that standard in such a way that we honor the ordinance and we honor the space? So those are the, I'm not sure exactly what he had seen in there that was alarming to him, but the direction was intended to be more flexibility.
Yeah, just for everybody else, I took the ordinance and the layout. Just to see what it was saying. And, it did come back with about 7 pages of things. And a lot of it centered around sequencing issues, renumbering, some cross-reference errors, some ambiguous language, some possible new definitions that, but it didn't contain other portions of our overall ordinance. So some of that may already be covered. But I think it's worthwhile maybe taking a look, considering also this issue about no parking on the bike path and making sure that we incorporate a few of those things and just tighten it up, clean it up just a little bit. I don't, I mean, as far as overall big structural conditions, I'm not sure. I don't know how to.
Part of the properties.
I was, it was long. We've had lots and lots of discussions over it. We've been sending me more messages today. Clarification, is this what we talked about? I don't understand. For John, and I don't have a program about tabling you bringing it back to planning commission. Chatting a little bit. I don't know necessarily or have to look. We will approve it. Tidying it up might be more beneficial than them.
It's better to approve it in a good form than to approve it in a bad form and try to correct it.
And next month with the following month, we are going to have a full ordinance review. Might be more situated where there's some changes here that are they but you look at what we're trying to do with the ordinance, it's it's a horrible. So it might behoove us just to, slow walk this one. And then get into it with professional help, rewrite, coordinate and benchmark. Area problems. I mean, I don't want to say that I can, don't hear from me that I don't think. Incorrect. I'm just saying there's a larger, bigger program I'm more excited about than the single one.
Correct, but that's gonna take months and months to do, and I think we should address what we've updated in this list.
Mandated for now. Surgery. Nice.
Later, yeah, but too good for reference. Let's tidy it up, tighten.
Yeah, I would like to put a Band-Aid on cause of action.
No, I tell her to be out there.
You agree? Our contracts.
Quick question, we're gonna postpone that, we, all public represent their member, their business. I don't think that's only.
AI is a wonderful tool, and it created a rough draft with all the suggestions. You can take it for what it's worth. So that would be one way to help speed it up a little bit. Make sure.
Bottom line is we want. And, if it takes 1 month, if it takes 2 months, fine, I don't either. However, another township that we serve, we serve them.
If I may just kind of interject, the client that Mr. Skipper represents has presented a site plan to the planning commission for a change in use, as Mr. Skipper indicated, changing it from, I think, a residential unit and retail to 2 short-term rentals. During that process, there was sort of a moving figure as to how many short-term rentals. I think there might be a way to try to work it out with the townships for the church. The board, planning commission can't do. Part of the issue.
Necessary.
These different types of things, there might be a way to understand if we're talking about a change in use to 2 short-term rentals. Where we know how many parking spaces are, that could lead to issuing the building permit that's applied for, Mr. Skipper indicated in December, so that can kind of move while we're still trying to prove the work.
Trustee Gerard, what the issue was, the state came back every Sunday. It was a little too. That's not really true. We can try to accommodate as best we could. And just to clarify, this is a permitted use. They have the ability to work through the process under the existing ordinance. Based on the size of the parcel, there's some challenges in space for the things like the parking, which is part of what this was seeking to address. It may well require a trip to the zoning board of appeals, so they have to table that until.
I heard a suggestion, to get rid of shutter.
Sure, I can create a motion that we go ahead and, table this until we can incorporate some of the feedback we received this couple of weeks. We'll bring it back to the planning commission.
Any further comments? All in favor, say one. Oh, another time. All right, all in favor, say one. I mean, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. We have our presentation, accept the audit, so, can you accept that?
We, it's a standard practice for the public report, you know. And again, I appreciate all kinds of effort. Appreciate the audit team, really taking the job at looking at our, that's what we want. We want to make sure. Okay, we'd be looking for motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the audit.
Any questions on the audit? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passed. Thank you. All right, 2027 CPI approval, Matt, would you like to introduce?
Thank you. So this year's budget, we're moving things up a bit to give the board time to have strategic conversations that we need. So with that, we're asking that we go from November for Midwest CPI. Midwest CPI. So we get numbers earlier. So. Very important. Conversations. Financials that are quite effective as you move together. A budget, this is like, it's a month. I think I'm pretty good.
Yeah, you reflect that we're getting ahead of the budget and so, good suggestion, let's do it. So I'll make a motion. That date from November to September. Support. Great, thank you. Any other questions about that? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, this was a little bit of a cleanup. Yeah, quite, PPA 198 agreement.
We hit the nail on the head, this is housekeeping item, when we approved the abatement for campus. Should have, we did it. All about the details. That's what this agreement does, as you can see, campus is super excited. Perform on early standard. This is taking for the time. So we have a market.
Any questions on that? If you haven't driven by the building, it is substantial. It's great, and I might wander my way in there one of these days, but it's a large building on that corner. I'll take a motion to approve this agreement. Great. Jim? Joan, support for that?
Yeah.
Support, great. Jim, move. All in favor of supporting the 198 agreement with the advice farm? Say aye. Aye. Great. Thank you. All right. Put on here. This discussion item, or do you want to go into the session?
We get adjourned in closed session, Dan, if you have opinion on whether we should adjourn or, discuss us.
I mean, my general recommendation is to follow the agenda as you go.
Any items for discussion? I had one. I think I might wait till the work out. Well, no, I'll say now. The staff was invited, or the visit was arranged by Chad, and we visited the pool, West Donald Pool, down the road, and you sat in the deep end, and video, it is large. It's tall, it's deep, it's impressive, and I want you to see it. And they are excited about what they're seeing or what they're doing, and they invited us back as a board. And if I can suggest, maybe an hour before a meeting in the next 2 months, we have the West Iowa Pool. And I can ask the gentleman to see if he's available at 5:30 for one of our meetings and go for a 45-minute tour. It is arguably the largest construction project in our community ever. It is halfway done. It will be early middle of fall of 20. Give you a sense of the size. Go to, I don't, if you go to the Holland Aquatic Center, most of the time it's set up with the lanes, with all lanes on the 25 meter. That pool is so big, that way it's, that lane is 50. Holland Aquatic Center calls that long. This is normal 50 meters. I mean, their long course is 150. This pool, it's hard to explain how big it is, because Chief, Sarah, you were there, Connie, you were there. It's hard for me to understand how large this facility is. And they said all the right language. They talk about community access, community fitness center, community entrance. So at this point, it looks like we might have access, but I tell you, there's a lot of lanes. There's a lot of lanes. But yeah, you just have to, it's on the ice.
Let's go before it snows.
It's gonna be frozen in by the end of October. Skin in by the end of October, and then they have a year and a half, it'll take 6 months to tile. Tile the pool. Not talking about the pool. A full-size crane inside of it. Do you think it looks small? I mean, it's my mark. Sorry, I know. Anybody, any other comments, any discussion items? I'll put it up, 5:30 before one.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
I agree.
All right. Any other discussion comments before we go into closed session? All right, I'll make sure that we're at the time.
I'd like to make a motion to enter the closed session under section 8 on Open Meetings Act, consult with Township attorney regarding the case connected with the Gen 123 properties lawsuit, but only in an open meeting. Have a financial impact on the litigation or settlement position of.
Thank you. Well, the closed session, all in favor, say aye. Roll call. Roll call.
Right. Trustee Brian does.
Yes.
Trustee Clark.
Yes.
I'm doing this by memory. Trustee Durant.
Yes.
Trustee Serna.
Yes.
Treasurer Steger.
Yes. All right.
I got my office set up.
Thank you, audience, to move on.
Joan, do you want me in the session, which you know Danielle typically does? Okay,
Great. We're going into.
So I have a number of updates for you since the packet went out last. So bear with me, I'll be as brief as possible. There were 3 updates in the packet. Again, I want to congratulate Sarah, being your deputy finance director. She's in a bit of transition now until we get that position, so we hope that position is right. I know Jan and I are trying to sit down with Sarah and finally talk about that position. We now have an opportunity to meet plans. So, yeah, there's also reflections on our side. But last week we tabled the hazmat recovery cost conversation. We just didn't have time to get that ready for its packet and the XA conversion, you may have picked this up if you've been paying attention in the MTA magazines. Right now, we operate on BSNA.net. It's a long-standing program. It's really the backbone of our when it comes to discussing finance community development. That's how all of our. They're changing, requiring all the customers to go to the public cloud. Some, with the word government cloud. Bringing that, we're having conversations now. Yes, it's about an 18-month process to make that transition. And we don't want to be waiting at the very end and deciding to do it. So we're going to start proceeding with that, in the very near future, we're going to bring in some budget numbers, but that's. So stay tuned on that. Also, you can find my notes. Fire department's been busy writing grants, and I know they've received one. So, Chief, do you have any updates on the grants you going after?
Yeah, we turned in 5 grants, coming up with a total of about $100,000. We received a $2,000 grant award from Central Energy. We're going to be purchasing the 401 gas meter. We can monitor a different gas that goes up. We applied for the Michigan State Equipment Grant for turnout meter, $2,000 grant. We also turned in firehouse subs and a road division grant. We turned that in. Dry sheets and equipment division. We also were notified and applied for the board's head community grant from just down the road here. That was a $10,000 grant for our eyes or our Android. We got that solar from the Mac years ago. And we did apply today for the Consumers Energy Community Grant. That was $5,000 for V-Watch. The chapters get marijuana, we have finance down in the orders. We have one on each truck, trying to get more for our people, but it will all energy. So we've been pretty busy writing grants, and so far we have.
Also, we just get set up to start planning for a project for the parking lot and restrooms. Next week, that project's really going to kick off. So look forward to seeing that. It'll be a long time coming, we're going to get back to see what we can go any off of the ones to the project. The demo will start, what's start next week, so those are the 2 projects. We're very much looking forward to getting them. Budget calendar, working with Connie, we put together a budget calendar. This is front you, I know we have a large set of this in front of you tonight. There are a lot of moving pieces with this inside of the packet. I think I didn't that. So right now we're already doing the our team is already working on identifying priorities in each department. We'll kick off at first with our strategic planning meeting on September 17th at the airport from 6:30 to 9. October 15th, we'll have our joint meeting with the planning commission. And also, October 22nd, I want to use a second work session to sit down and actually prioritize our strategic goals, so we can start to put some budget. Then again, we go back internal, do a lot of work internally. If we want to hold November 19th open for any necessary our work sessions, that we finalize anything. We'll have a perspective budget session on January 14th, second on February 11th, set the public hearing, hold the public hearing on March 11th, and budget effect equal. So again, I want to get this out for you so you can put the timeline, and you hold those dates. The afternoon, we had the ribbon cutting for the Radio Bridge, the Pet Memorial Bridge at the 168th Road. Mike Mitchell, he was actually pushed that effort. A wonderful little park. They told a story about a woman who came in there. This is the only rainbow bridge in the city. And there's already a number of college staying on the bridge. So that people can remember that they love the fact that fast. Really have to love the fact fast. It's always a thing. What's the best way to do that? Beautiful spot. Or at least 30 people showed up. Jerry Heinsberg was there, he and his wife, so both Mitchell and I was kind of Jerry. So, okay, great, all done, great spot. But not just our regular truck. Also, last item for me, as you know, we get a lot of complaints of e-bikes, e-motors that go on the path. And we have an asset who already works for us a lot. We spent 4 years in law enforcement. I do training. His best skill is how we cost. So I asked him to go out with quotes. And we're gonna put him out on the track. So, when it's not allowed, and right now, kind of code season. But I think it's like, if you want to grab handout stickers, get some gift certificates, be contact with kids. Maybe ready for kids. Those who are really going to use the he's excited to do it. I asked, Alonzo, are you sure you want to do it? Actually, he wants to be part of this. That's what I will about. He wants to be part. So I look forward to reporting. With that, that's all I have.
Very good, like that.
I actually feel it's a leap by it, it's actually not, that's up the same.
Whoa. Gonna check that.
Well, I told him not to get to.
Can we make sure he has a camera?
That's super. All right. Then we'll go open up for, oh, sure, right now.
I noticed in the meeting report, meeting the.
That will be our sit down and talk more about it. Yes. I know. Okay, if you can, I ask that you have priorities of. Being nice, like. And find a time to.
If there's, you know, if you don't get a quorum, is there, instead of a community, you do a different time. We just have, what I appreciate about this process, it's laid out, it's forcing us to get to a decision earlier with more of it. And so I think if you know, just say, hey, maybe a Saturday morning for a couple hours, let you work.
I'd like to be here, Jim.
Okay, so if there's something that it can be thrown up, not make schedules, for all years, but I think we gotta keep it in, give or take on 3 days on that January 14th, just to keep the process.
And I don't mind timeline, that's great, that you have it set this way, because there would be things that.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, it's this is one that we've been sorely lacking. I think this, it's. Well, kind of, actually, the budget action. Actually, budget before we. All right, anything else? Questions for the manager? All right, I'll start. Oh, yeah, I think I have one time. I'll open the public comment to my colleagues, any comments? No stump speeches, no, all right, close public.
Did you wanna go over that letter and have it on 14 days, back in about the crosswalk?
I think we throw that into Matt and it goes into our planning session conversation. I don't think we need to discuss it, because this is about the, that's what Brock talked about.
Yeah, it was just in our back under.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it's probably more appropriate after hearing the road commission talk about a roundabout. I think we put that in a bucket of state. And I think we're going to have a serious discussion next month. About state.
I think the agenda was just the formal we made part of it. We received that way ahead of the packet. You know, the ones we got late this afternoon, report we get print off. So when we do get communication early, you know, we like to make sure that's.
Well, there, you had one last week.
Yeah, the weather wasn't 100% on their side. Had a couple rainy days, and no saying as a you break even on a fair week, you had a good year. Well, they had a couple of rainy days, so I know they didn't have a tremendous year. Last year, they broke all down the records for the 2 previous years. Now this year went down. But it's all of the weather we do. So they say it was all right despite the weather, but they don't have all the numbers together. And I asked for in our next meeting, like she usually comes in every year and talks about the figure. And as far as EPA, me had to have a hard report. I didn't read that whole thing again. That's it.
I do have one question. We had a meeting at the conference center and we discussed the possibilities there. Is that gone any further?
No.
Next election is coming up. Don't get to pay your taxes. Just finally wondering.
A reminder that National Aviation Day is this coming Saturday. Some of the highlights will be a country room, the pancake breakfast. Lights for kids ages 8 to 17. Wine club, light simulators, vintage car, something. We're gonna have a C-47 World War II transport. So we are tickets for about $100. I think there's 7 tickets. So shorted. You don't buy a ticket.
Yeah, and that has been, I think the meetings and this stuff was what we had to do. Yeah. Money from the state, continuing to play. They're part of our community conversation that. The interesting thing, I really appreciate these opportunities they raise. My computers. Some of the fun things that. Underneath one is. Put back in. Warmed up. The whole inner strategic plan, I hope that, that you're thinking 1, 3, 5 years out. And if you have a manager here who can, carry our vision out over the next decade or more, really one. And I think that's the fun part of this board. Any board, thinking board, and I just so appreciate all of you. Conversations we've had off the cuff or publicly at least that's some assessments. And so it's just neat to think about us on the planning session. Without having an issue like short-term rentals, stop hanging over our heads and you actually start thinking ahead. Just really encourage you to say, okay, September session. That's staff. Follow up what they're working on. So there's a lot of things going on. Yesterday, for creating systems, building. Well, it doesn't really affect us, other than we see the reports. But that's a big deal. The structure of that one vintage, that's going to come with all the buildings. You start thinking about some of these larger the space, you know, the mountains. What do you do with the mountains? What do you do with and our neighbors? Has a chance. Should we plan again long term? That's the fun stuff in this board. I just appreciate that. Wish he was. Somebody says, he's asking me questions about all of us that were in the office. What about this? I appreciate this. Or visionary look. Something that already takes over that calls, does those really well. But I think it's also, there's this element of heat, like, you have the really got hard in the south side, you know, a number. So I think that's. Listen, learning from each other.
Just a couple things. We heard again from the, development, which will be on Butternut across from the high school. It'll be 30-ish attached townhome condos that are in groups of 2. That's coming along. It looks nice. And the applicant kind of go ahead and return this. The other item, we couldn't talk every month about our tree ordinance. We're finally putting a bow on that. And I think we'll be at the Asian celebration on Saturday with the event and Jig's time to have help to go up with the young people, not sign us to go up. Okay, and the transport thing, because this.
It's all
Okay, that's for the. I have big gifts for birthday, Christmas, and like this is the out of the $85. Can I have it with them? Anyway, I'm looking forward.
Good. All right, with that, we have regular meetings. Before seeing what Joan talks about, I've been in a couple meetings there, so
Hello.
Work on favor for that. Thank you.
Number for meetings. We just have a lot going on.